Welcome back in, guys, to another episode of the Advisor Odyssey podcast. Today's episode is going to be discussing my terminology here as I explain this, but it's going to be discussing silver bullet syndrome. This is a conversational topic that I've been having a lot of dialogue about it with my internal team. I've talked with a handful of advisors about it thus far, and I think it's not something new. It's been around for a long time, and as we discuss it and explain and describe it more and more, you're probably going to think to yourself, yep, that's happened to me before. Hopefully not to a severe level, but you'll probably be able to relate. So enjoy, guys. We got a great episode coming your way.
This is the Advisor Odyssey audio experience, where financial advisors, planners, insurance agents, and brokers will find fresh new ideas and perspectives around what it takes to launch, succeed, scale, and bulletproof their business.
Silver bullet syndrome. What exactly does that mean? So let's dig into that really quick. Silver bullet syndrome, how I define that, is essentially an overwhelming desire to chase the next big thing. Now, this desire can sometimes become obsessive. It can become an obsessive behavior if it's coupled with short-term goals and the phenomenon of being very, very curious about what others are doing and what's working for them. So, to break that down a little more, obsessive behavior over positive things can lead to strong results, especially in the business world. And being curious and constantly trying to dig and inquire and learn more also leads to very successful results in business and majority of life. But when we couple all of that together with the goal of trying to find the next big thing, to be the first to figure something out, or be the first around the curve, that's where we hit this ground where, as an entrepreneur, a startup entrepreneur, you're building your business, that's how they succeed. They cut the corners. But when you've got an established business and you're trying to just get better or to do something new, when you constantly look for the next big thing and you're chasing it and you obsess on it, if you do not keep that in check, it can become very, very destructive. So think about it like this. Imagine Twitter, okay? If you hop on Twitter and instead of searching for a topic that you've been hearing about, you instead jump on the What's Trending Now tab to find something that's just relevant enough that you care about it and it garners your short-term attention. Okay, so that's really all this is. Silver bullet syndrome is getting attracted to the short term and trying to find something to obsess on that will get you to that next point, whatever that point is that you've defined to yourself. So today's episode, we're going to talk about what is silver bullet, which we've discussed, but why is silver bullet syndrome so real and prevalent in the advisory business? And then also, if you are experiencing this now and you're relating to this as we discuss further, or maybe you're in a position where you're helping advisors or you're helping friends who are also advisors, or whatever the situation is, we're going to talk about some ways that we can disarm this mentality too and hopefully change it for the positive. So here are some warning signs, okay? Here are some warning signs to pay attention to that whether it's you personally are affected, or we'll call it infected, with silver bullet syndrome, or someone you're working with or you're close with, etc., they are infected with it. So commonly you're going to hear the advisor make a very close-minded statement, but they will then follow up that statement by asking a very broad and open-ended question in which they expect you to answer that question with a very straightforward statement of fact. You're not expected to share an opinion. You're expected to answer their very open-ended question with a direct statement of fact. Now, this is a validation seek, ultimately. Like, at the end of the day, they're seeking validation, and they want to use that validation to then to be guided towards an idea that can inspire them, that essentially gives them their fix. So there's always going to be, or typically there's going to be, a why me, or like a victim tonality that you'll hear in the voice, or if it's in written form. It can be more difficult to find, but a lot of times it can be spotted. So Here's some examples, okay? Here's an example of a closed-minded statement that's then followed up with an open-ended, very broad question. Okay, and you might have gotten these questions before. You might have asked these questions before. But again, here's some examples. Dinner seminars aren't working. What are other guys doing right now? Here's another one. It's taking too long to process all this business. Are other people having the same problem, or am I just the unlucky one? See, when we get those questions, or if you've asked questions like that before, think about why you asked it. What were you feeling in the moment? And then, if you can remember the response you got, especially if it was a real-time response, did you like it? Did you not? And if you did like it, what was it? If you didn't like it, was it because it was not the answer you were looking for? Because it wasn't a statement of fact? See, we can go down a big rabbit hole here with psychology and really dig into like that side of the world, but we're not. Okay, this is a financial advising business type podcast here. But notice the question sounded almost like defeating in a way. It was very victimized, but it was self-defeating. What I'm doing isn't working. What are others doing? It's taking too long to do this. Why am I so unlucky? Okay. If, even just in reality, if those exact two questions were still asked, but they were posed differently with different words, different verbiage, in general, a different tonality, they would have been very different. And it would have prompted a very different response that would have likely led to a better outcome. So here's those questions. Here's the statements followed up by a good question to ask here, okay? This is the first step in overcoming the silver bullet syndrome mindset. If you have it, or if you're trying to help someone get out of it, here's the better way to ask that question. You got to frame this to them, okay? Seminars aren't working. Can you help me figure out where I'm going wrong? Okay, notice they still said they're not working. Okay, we're acknowledging that. But instead of saying, what are other guys doing right now? It's, can you help me figure out where I'm going wrong? This pushes the blame back onto the individual. Like they self-realize that they are the ones to blame. They're taking ownership of this, right? This is extreme ownership. But they're not giving up. Okay? When you ask what others are doing, instead, that's throwing in the towel on what you were doing. You don't want to do this, okay? You win in business long term by being consistent and getting consistently better every single day, month, year, etc. The other question, it's taking too long to process business. Are other guys having the same problem, or am I just the unlucky one? Okay, the better way to ask that, it's taking too long to process my business. How can my team and I streamline this to smooth it out and speed it up? Again, notice they're taking some sort of ownership and they're looking for a way that they can get better at that specific thing. They're not self-defeating. They're not trying to ask you to give them some answer that's going to rock their entire world or take it off their plate. Like, there's an ownership piece there. So again, the entire tone of the questions changed when the question itself was specific and not broad and open-ended. So the dangers of silver bullet syndrome, again, if this is you, like, realize that it's not going to happen to everyone. And I couldn't tell you exactly what percent of 100 it would happen to, but it happens. It happens way too often. But the majority of humans today, like, we are conditioned to become excited about the new things that are shiny. They're new, they're different. It's what advertising has done to society. And really just how advanced the studies in behavioral psychology have become as well. Now, the best marketers, the best PR firms out there, they are consistently finding ways to marry those two elements together so that we as the consumers become infatuated with what they're selling. We want the new blank because it makes us feel special. We want to be among the first to hear about blank because then we can be the ones to share the scoop with our peers. We desire to be ahead of the curve because then we appear to be more important or plugged in to the future, at least in the eyes of others and ourselves. Now, what's interesting is that we weren't built to be that way, to be really clear. We as humans, we were built to find enough and whatever was needed to survive. We've shifted as a culture ever since like the 17th century, back when London first started printing advertisements and endorsements in newspapers. 17th century, that's a long, long time that we've been conditioning. And the goal of this conditioning is strictly to elicit a response from us as the consumer to want the new thing. And marketing firms, PR firms, advertising agencies, they know this. And it's at a point now where they don't even have to try to do that. It's just what quote unquote marketing has become. It's the thing. So you as an advisor, when someone tells you what the next new thing is, which that was webinars not too long ago, right? 2020 hit, COVID hit. For the most part, webinars were like the big push. Do webinars, do webinars, do webinars. We've got the best package. We can do it turnkey. We can give you everything you need. Just pay this, pay that, sign up for this. A lot of people did. A lot of people paid it. A lot of people signed up because they were hungry. Okay? They were wanting the next thing. Now, silver bullet syndrome is a highly addictive behavioral mindset, and it can ruin businesses and careers if left unchecked and unexposed. If you're in a small network of, maybe it's a mastermind group or a peer group or anything like that, you owe it to the people that you interact with to always provide that silver bullet reality check if you ever notice it, because it will destroy. Now, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. A couple hours one morning, really kind of digging in to the why, the what, and ultimately how can I, like from my chair, help advisors with this. And so I'm going to share that answer, and it'll be general, it'll be broad, but I'm hoping there's some information in there or some ideas and thoughts, etc., that you can take and apply to yourself or apply to others that you interact with. But I think that most would argue that a silver bullet syndrome infected advisor is seeking to find something great, because being good just isn't cutting it for them anymore. Rarely do I ever hear about or come across an advisor who they're doing something bad and now they're like, we're all focused on whatever the next big thing is. When someone's not doing something successfully, they're looking for new, but they're really more so like throwing darts at a wall. You're trying to figure out what's working. They're not always in the mindset of, we're going to abandon what we were doing. And the growth-minded advisors that I work with also, they typically don't throw in the towel on ideas until, at least 2 years down the line. They've got a good run rate on this in terms of like tracking and figuring out what's working and what's not. But they're always looking for ways to improve. How can you get 1% better? Advisory business, like this is it's a very lucrative, very profitable business because the impact that advisors make on people's lives is tremendous. And because of that, it doesn't take a ton of, sales or wins, etc., to feel like you've accomplished your purpose or that you're really making a difference. So that high, that enjoyment, it's contagious, it's powerful. So rarely do people throw out an idea that's worked for them in the past, or even not working that much at all. But anyways, when good isn't cutting it anymore, the advisors look for great. And it's not because of anything that, like, if you work with advisors, not because of anything you did. It's not because of anything someone else did. Like, it's, at the end of the day, it's because somebody out there, whether it was a person, like another marketer or a wholesaler or a digital ad or like whatever it was, at some point, you or another advisor got hit with a message that perfectly married together those two critical elements that we discussed earlier. Those elements, again, timely advertising, which that's really the uncontrollable. And the second being the emotional, like synergistic verbiage that elicits those victimized and why me responses and feelings in your mind. And that's the behavioral psychology component. It's impossible to time the the messaging piece. It's totally uncontrollable. if you could hit someone with a new car ad every single time they were in a car wreck, that's all you would pay for. But you can't do that. So you'll never be able to get the timing perfect. But you can perfect the psychology side of it. You can do a lot of research, you can do a lot of statistical findings and figure out how are people feeling now, why are they feeling this way, how are they responding, where are they going, what's their vice. Like, you can find all that. That's all available. Now it's just throw the dart. Does it stick or not? And so that's what these marketing companies and whatnot are doing to you as the advisor consumer. So realize that. So don't fall into that, okay? Don't fall into that trap. Every once in a while, you get that valuable message, okay? I feel like I give out valuable messages, for example. I hope that what I say can help you in that moment, or it hits you at the right time, sure. Now, granted, I'm not selling anything, so it's a little different, but ultimately, just be aware, be on your toes when things get tough and you're getting hit with these messages and how to fix it. Don't chase, okay? Do your absolute best not to chase. And quite frankly, when I thought about it like that, like those two elements, the timely advertising and the verbiage to elicit the why me feelings, it solidified in my mind that for the most part, you'll rarely ever have a proactive conversation with someone about this topic. It's usually going to be reactive. And in most conversations where you're, what's reactive based or reactive provoked, it's not about avoiding being on your heels. It's about how to respond best when you get, caught on your heels. So, the last piece I'll share on this is there's a gentleman, you probably heard of his name, but his name is Wim Hof. That's Wimhof. He's known as like the Iceman because of the crazy lengths he goes through in order to endure like freezing cold temperatures, like crazy things. He's got which by the way, he has a best-selling book. It's called What Doesn't Kill Us. You may enjoy reading it. It's pretty solid. But I bring him up because he's pretty much like the poster child for enduring the uncomfortable to become better afterwards. And I believe that in the advisory business, you gain expertise by repeatedly exposing yourself to the same challenge, and you gain mastery in your craft by repeatedly overcoming the challenge that you expose yourself to. So going back to what I said, the advisors in growth mode, both in growth mode and that are actually actively growing well, like they've got that growth mindset, a very, very common thread is that they want to get better at what they're already doing. They're not as fixated on adding more. So, again, take all this, I suppose, with a grain of salt. But there's a Bruce Lee quote that was shared with me once that I love it. It's tough to say I live by it, but this you've probably heard this quote before, but it's, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. That tells you mastery over more. Once you achieve a level of mastery in whatever it is, in seminars, in I don't want to generalize financial planning, but once you achieve a level of mastery in whether it's a marketing related piece or it's understanding technology or it's managing client relationships, etc. Once you achieve a level of mastery in it, it's safe to expand into other areas of interest. You just can't do it prematurely. It's got to be mastered. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It's a little different, but again, silver bullet syndrome, it's a very real thing. And it can it can be very disruptive and destroy your business if it's left unchecked and unexposed. Thanks for listening.
We hope you enjoyed the Advisor Odyssey audio experience. Connect with us on your favorite social media platforms at Advisor Odyssey. You can find our full-length educational videos to watch on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out all our articles and publications on medium.com/Advisor Odyssey. The Advisor Odyssey podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The contents and opinions shared, expressed, or otherwise alluded to on the Advisor Odyssey podcast and audio experience are solely ideas and not to be depicted as tax, legal, or investment advice. Results from the use of these concepts may not be representative of the experience of all financial professionals and are no guarantee of future success. Your results may vary. The Advisor Odyssey and its affiliated members are not to be held liable or responsible for any lawful recourse or punishment invoked upon the individual or accompanying business partners or team members. Federal law, state law, and/or insurance carrier requirements may prohibit or place limitations on any of the ideas and activities expressed. All advisors, planners, wholesalers, affiliated reps, and investment advisors should be aware of any limitations imposed by federal regulation, state regulation, insurance carriers, broker-dealers, and registered investment advisors as applicable. Investment advisors are strongly encouraged to obtain pre-approval from the broker-dealer, registered investment advisor, insurance company, or similar institution with which they may be affiliated.